Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Carmen, and this is my review slash reaction video to the new Star Trek movie, which is called Star Trek Beyond. And you may notice that I'm wearing blue lipstick in honor of my fave chief medical officer. On board the Enterprise. Basically, I'm a dork. Anyway, yeah, so as a quick preface to this video, it is not spoiler free. So if you have not seen it or wish to or don't wish to be spoiled completely for huge plot points in the movie, I would just exit out like right now. Okay, I'm going to assume that anyone still watching it has either seen it or gives zero fucks about spoilers. I don't really know how to do just a plain review video because I've never done one before. So I'm just going to start talking about the things that I really loved about this movie, which is a lot, okay? So I think one of my ultimate favorite things about this particular installment in the AOS is that it felt so Star Trek. And I don't know how to say that in a way that's clearer or more understandable. There was something intangible about it that I can't put my finger on that just had the heart and the soul and the same feel that the original series did. And I would attribute that, I guess, to just the fact that it was written and directed by longtime fans of the series. You know, they understand Star Trek in a way that I think only people who really, really love something can ever understand it. And so you felt their love of the series and their desire to pay homage to the incredible people and characters that have come before. And it was everything I could have asked for from a Star Trek movie. And yeah, I don't know how to say it any better than that. It was a true tribute to the 50 years of Star Trek that have come before it and the hopefully 50 years of Star Trek that will come after it. I left the movie theater both times after seeing it just feeling infinitely better about everything. This movie, Beyond, really just showed the heart and soul of Bones, and I think it showed his depth and his versatility and his just everything that makes Bones such a great character and that made people fall in love with him all those, years ago. And I think Carl Urban just does such a great, amazing job of depicting all of these different facets of Bones that make him so lovable, because I think it could be really easy for an actor to sort of two-dimensionalize Bones as, oh, the grumpy doctor who, you know, complains a lot or whatever. But there's so much more to Bones than just that. He is grumpy, and of course we love that. It's so lovable about him, but he's so much more than that. And like the scene with Kirk at the beginning of the movie where they're talking about his birthday and his father's death and all that stuff. It was such a short scene, I think, but I think it showed beautifully this friendship and this deep love that these two characters have for each other, and then they know each other so well, which I don't know that Into Darkness depicted as well as it could have. Okay, something else to love about this new Star Trek movie is that it introduced a new villain who had a really relatable sort of plight. And I think that he was such a great villain because I think he asked questions that are pertinent and his reasons were valid. It was interesting too that it's revealed, spoiler, that he is from Starfleet, that he was a human born in this time of war who's trying to adapt to a time of peace that he doesn't understand. And he kind of just kept the war going where he was. I think Star Trek, the original series, had a lot of characters that were the bad guys and they would redeem them at the end, you know? And so I think that finding that common humanity in the quote unquote villain and understanding where they're coming from is interesting and important. And I like that they didn't redeem him, but they also didn't completely condemn him because they did make him human. They included Leonard Nimoy, or Ambassador Spock, into the story. Like, they remembered him in a way that made him central to what was going on in the struggle that Spock was dealing with, which I thought was really a really great way to remember such a iconic, character and man. And yeah, I just really appreciated that it was central to Spock's struggle in this film. And I really liked that they brought back into it his conflict over what happened with Vulcan, because Spock is half Vulcan, and that is obviously a very big part of who his character is. I loved so much that they went back to TOS uniform tops, not the bottoms, but it just, I love that, I like that material. It's just Star Trek, In a year that is the 50th anniversary of Star Trek, you have to make TOS references. And they made some really great ones. I loved the Kirk ripping his shirt again, like always. I loved the entire row of red shirts getting killed off at one time. I loved, there was more. I'm missing a bunch. Sulu in this movie was great as always, and I loved meeting his husband and his daughter, and I love that they just very casually introduced his family and showed what hopefully will in the future be the norm, and that's just that people love people, and who gives a fuck what the gender of that person is. Jayla is, I love Jayla. If they do another one, which I hope they do, I hope Jayla's in it. I loved Jayla so much. They just made her so amazing. And I loved Jayla and Scotty's interactions and Jayla and just everyone's interactions with Jayla. She was amazing, and I don't even know what else to say about her except that she is badass and I love her. Something I don't understand is, how does gravity work in Yorktown? Because everything's upside down and people aren't falling out of the sky. I really don't understand that, and I don't know enough about science to even pretend to understand it. My only guess, as a non-science person, was that each kind of section had its own special gravitational field around it, and that's all I didn't understand. Yorktown was awesome and it looked amazing and incredible, but I did not understand the science behind it at all. One of my ultimate favorite things about this movie is that it really showed the heart of who James T. Kirk is. And I'm slightly biased because Kirk and Bones are my two fave characters. But I think that I loved so much his motivations in this movie, his desire to figure out his place in this universe, because I think that in the original series, Kirk is so sure of Starfleet and so sure of his love for space and exploring and the Enterprise, that this Kirk had to find his way to be so sure of that as well, because it's such a defining characteristic of who he is. This love for being the captain of the Enterprise and for the crew and the Enterprise itself. It's kind of the love of his life in a lot of ways, the Enterprise and space. And so this Kirk really needed to find that in himself beyond just trying to be as good as his father was. I loved that he slowly, as the movie goes on, sheds little bits and pieces of his father and his rebellion and his childhood to really become 100% just Jim Kirk, like the motorcycle and the sabotage, which obviously harkens back to the first movie with him driving his stepfather's car off the cliff. And it felt to me like when they used sabotage to defeat the swarm, that it was the last bit of fighting his way to put that past behind him that he needed to do. And it was kind of his goodbye, his swan song to trying to live up to who his father was and his reemergence to be who he was. And I loved so much the introspection of Kirk in this film. They did a really good job of showing a greater depth to the Bones and Spock friendship than they have in the previous two. And I really loved that. Okay, also my 3 favorite quotes are Kirk, Spock, and Bones. And Kirk saying, "It is better to die saving lives than to live with taking them. That's the world I was born into," or something along those lines. Did not write it down because watching a movie at the time. Bones saying, "I feel like my innards have been to a barn dance," just because that's great. Or Bones saying, "Fear of death is what keeps us alive," because that's just a great quote. And Spock's saying horseshit because that's funny. I also really liked "This is where the frontier pushes back," because that's just a fucking awesome line. Chekhov is really great in this movie as well. I loved the Kirk and Chekhov pairing. And it's really sad, though, because, of Anton, obviously. But I think that this movie is a good tribute to Anton and to Chekhov, and a good tiny bit of a tiny bit of who he was as an actor. That was nice to see. So, one of the great messages of this film and this series as a whole is this idea that we're better together than we would or could ever be apart. And that if we can come together in this spirit of acceptance and love and unity, then there's nothing that we can't accomplish, and that we will be creating a better and more loving and hopeful world for the future generations. And I just think that in this climate that we live in today, that it's a really prescient and important message to send, that unity is the answer, and that if we come together rather than tear each other apart, then there's hope and love and a beautiful future in that. I don't know how you're supposed to end a review. If you're supposed to grade it or whatever, but A plus 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 plus. If you are, go see Star Trek. If you haven't, if you have, go see it again. It's everything that you want a Star Trek movie to be. It's Star Trek at its most pure and lovely form. And think I'm actually done talking now, amazingly. Okay. Until next time.